Hey, what's up, everybody? And got a special video here today. Obviously, everybody's heard the news now at this point by the time this comes out. And I feel like I'm gonna get heat for this for some reason, but let's get into it. Hulk Hogan has passed away. Hulk Hogan has passed away at the age of 71 years old. It's been reported by TMZ today that he had had cardiac arrest. It happened earlier in the day. He was rushed to a hospital, and unfortunately, he could not be revived. I do want to say that I'm very shocked to hear about this. I really didn't believe it when I first heard it. I actually really didn't think it was real. I was very shocked to hear this. And honestly, I think this is probably one of the biggest and saddest days in really the history of professional wrestling. Like, it is a pretty big and sad day about this. And I just want to take a few minutes to actually speak on a few things about this because I feel like something really needed to be said about this. Like, this is arguably the biggest name ever in all of professional wrestling. And I do want to take at least a few minutes to talk about this because I had been hearing about different things about his health in the past few weeks now, and it's been a lot of rumors and stories. Wondering who do you really believe here and all of this? Because I think it was like back in late June, maybe July. Apparently, Hulk Hogan had been in the hospital, but a lot of this stuff was coming from Bubba the Love Sponge, and honestly, he's probably the last person I think anybody would really believe about this because a lot of people just look at him as a slimeball disc jockey, and basically he been talking about how Hulk Hogan has been on his deathbed for almost a month, that he's been in a coma, that his health has deteriorated and everything, and he's been doubling down on this. And I kind of wondered how come no one else is really reporting on this. Like, this would sound like big news to a lot of wrestling websites and whatnot, but nobody reported any of this, and I thought it was kind of quite strange about that. And he kept going on talking about it, and you know I know Hulk Hogan had been out of the public eye recently. He hadn't really been seen in a while. I think the last time he was really doing anything, all the way up to this date was promoting that Real American Freestyle with Eric Bischoff, that new promotion they had coming up. I heard it was a TV deal. I even heard Kurt Angle signed on to it. So I knew about that. But I guess he'd been out of the public eye for a minute. I knew his wife had got on Instagram basically explaining what was going on. He's had back surgery multiple times, and he had another back surgery, explained the severity of it and what needed to happen. But she debunked the rumors about him being in a coma and all that, and that it takes a very long time to heal. It just talk about the process of it and everything. And I'm looking at this like, yeah, I'm more liable to believe his wife than Bubba the Love Sponge, because like if it's that coming from his family or even Eric Bischoff or Jimmy Hart, I'm more liable to believe them. I do think it was kind of strange now, given it's almost 48 hours ago now, that Jimmy Hart had got online saying that Hulk was doing great. He's doing phenomenal. And, um, then talking about Nick Hogan, talking about the karaoke. And I thought it was kind of, I guess, like a bait and switch thing where you think about it. Maybe he was just trying to protect the image or just trying to save face. Jimmy Hart was doing. So I think he was trying to do that and was doing his best because maybe he thought he was good that day. And then, I guess the next day now, like I say, he went into cardiac arrest earlier at his home. And I don't know how long he was back at home from the hospital because even people reporting that Bubba Love Sponge said he couldn't, Bubba the Love Sponge said that Hulk Hogan couldn't even talk anymore. And it's just like, do you really believe him? Especially if you kind of go back to the past that, yes, they were friends at one point, and I don't know if they ever rekindled in that, but they stopped being friends after a while, especially after, Bubba Love Sponge being such a mark for Hulk Hogan that, he let him fuck his wife and everything, and then the whole Gawker sex tape thing happened. And, listen here, it is a lot to say about Hulk Hogan, and I mean good and bad, okay? Like, it's a lot of good and bad to talk about. You can't deny either one, okay? And you've seen me come on this channel multiple times in the past and say, fuck Hulk Hogan for multiple good reasons, okay? And listen, I haven't fucked with Hogan since, the whole TNA thing. Because, after Hogan and Bischoff did the TNA, yeah, I was not fucking with him even before the racist stuff ever came out, all right? So, I definitely was not messing with him for that. And, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people don't really fuck with Hulk Hogan, whether it be the racist stuff or even the political stuff. Even I was never even bothered about the political stuff because when he got on the RNC and just basically worked the crowd and cut a promo, I actually thought it was hilarious that people really got mad for him working politicians. So I thought that was pretty funny though. But yeah, like I said before, yeah, I have not fucked with Hulk Hogan for basically a long time, and basically after a while, I didn't care if he really showed up on WWE television or not. I did not care, so because it's almost like, what's the point of really getting mad about this? That's why I'm thinking it's kind of funny that people were so surprised. Like, why does WWE continue to keep working with Hulk Hogan? Like, they've been doing it this long, so why would they really stop? So I was to the point like I don't care anymore. Like I don't really have to care. So it's like if he's on TV, he is. If he's not, he's not. I'm like, if you don't like it, then just turn the channel then. That's how I really felt about it after a while. And yeah, we saw what happened on Raw. We saw how he got booed out of the building back in January and whatnot. And I'm not surprised that happened. Like, if you really kind of look, uh, yeah, some of it was political. I do believe that. But if you just kind of look with the lies in the past he's told, and just, even with the apology over the whole racism thing, and that more of apology of that, you're just sorry that you got caught, then, really, I guess, generally apologize. Like, yeah, you can't really expect, like, yeah, I expected that to happen. So I'm not really like, I'm not surprised by that at all. But one thing I've always, I think I've been on here before and I've said, like, yeah, I don't really fuck with Hulk Hogan, but I never really wished death upon the guy either. And given what I have seen today, and it's almost like if you even just say rest in peace to him and whatnot, people are just gonna call you out about it, and you've seen people just basically just tap dancing and just happy and celebrating that he died. And everybody wants to say, oh, we're smoking on this pack, that pack, which I feel like everybody just says that nowadays, and it's just getting ridiculous. I don't think people really know what that means and stuff. But it's one thing I'm not going to come doing on here is that I am not going to come disrespect the dead. I'm not going to do that. It's like, yeah, I didn't mess with dude, but it's like I'm not going to talk about someone that's dead now, okay? And it's like, dude, and he really wasn't even dead for an hour, and you just hear a lot of wild, crazy shit, and continue to hear it right now. I'm sure currently on the internet right now and stuff. So it's like I'm not surprised by it, but it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna come out and do that. Yeah, I think that's pretty fucked up and everything. Okay, so yeah, that's one thing I'm not gonna do on here is that I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna disrespect the dead. I'm not gonna do that. Like I said earlier, I am very shocked what happened. Yeah, it is really sad and whatnot. What how you feel about it or anything? Like, yeah, it's pretty fucking sad. Okay, and like I said, I ain't really mess with dude. It's like, say, you could be sad for his family or anything. Like, that's the most thing. Like, condolences for friends and family, even if you don't really fuck with him and whatnot. But I'm not wouldn't just go out and just say like, oh, I've been wishing for him to be dead for the longest time now. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But I'm not gonna deny like it's a lot of bad stuff with him also. You cannot deny it because it did happen. And I will say this too, like, looking at Hulk Hogan, and yes, a lot of people are gonna say it's a complicated history when it comes to his legacy and everything he's done, good or bad. And I'm sure a lot of people are gonna look more of the bad than the actual good, because I feel like more people just talk more about bad than actually even really talking about any type of accomplishment he had done in wrestling in general. Because yes, at the end of the day, arguably, what do you want to say it? Like I said, this was the probably the biggest name in professional wrestling that has died. You have to put him on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, really. When it comes to like Hogan or like Austin, Rock, some would say Cena, maybe Brett, maybe Ric Flair, a lot of people. Like, that's the side on you, but he is one of those names that's on there. Obviously, he helped bring the WWF to a national level, with Vince and everything, and bring the WWF to where it is right now in his mainstream media attention. Like, yes, this man was literally the biggest, some would say, mainstream crossover star in wrestling, going into multiple even TV shows and movies, and just drew a hell of a lot of money and everything. So, yes, I do understand the impact of what Hulk Hogan did in his business and the significance that can never really be duplicated like that. Okay, and listen, I'll tell you right here, right now. Listen, I didn't grow up on Hulk Hogan like that. I wasn't around for the '80s and all that through Hulkamania and how he dominated the WWF at that time. And I can understand why a lot of people are really sad, especially if you really grew up with him like that. Me, I only really know the Hulk Hogan from the NWO in the '90s, because that's when I started watching wrestling, and I knew about WCW and the NWO and how culturally big it was. Obviously, with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and whatnot, and of course the heel turn. Some would say it's the biggest heel turn of all time in wrestling. I know people try to put Cena's up there, but it really does not compare to the NWO and how really shocking it was too. him being the third man and everything. And yeah, I understand how big the NWO was. Hell, I still remember the United Center, Chicago, Illinois, him coming out there with Dennis Rodman when the Chicago Bulls were on top of the world at the time, and Michael Buffer announcing and coming out to Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child. It's still one of the most probably coolest badass entrances I've ever seen out there. Like literally. So yeah, I understand how big he was. Even SmackDown in like what 2002 when he came out there and he had a huge entrance and had a standing ovation for like almost 10 minutes, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I do know how big he was, especially after doing research in the past and looking it up and why he was that huge name of a draw. Like I said, a lot of people say he's the biggest name in wrestling and whatnot. So it's yeah, like it's crazy really. So like you gotta look at it from there too. I guess like when you look at his name value and everything, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are gonna look at it as not been as big, especially in the past few years, given a lot of has said a lot of stupid shit. Obviously, we all know that. It's all out there on the internet. Some of it pretty funny, some of it pretty not, but we know what has what's happened and everything. So we definitely know about that. So like I said, you got to look at it from both sides of the spectrum. I will say one thing though that I think it is crazy that people do try to compare him to Chris Benoit and whatnot because it's like people still sit there and tell you that Benoit should be in the Hall of Fame even though he killed his family, or like people will like forgive Chris Benoit before they ever forgive Hogan and whatnot. I gotta say, if you don't forgive Hulk Hogan, rightfully so and everything, but yeah, comparing murder and racism, like which is the lesser two evils here? But even that is still pretty crazy to hear about it. And I gotta say, man, it has been crazy in the past few days, especially with a lot of celebrities that have been kind of dropping off like that. And they say death comes in threes when it comes. Like it started with Malcolm Jamal Warner, then Ozzy Osbourne, and now Hulk Hogan. And I guess more if you even. I heard about Chuck Mangione passing away also. So that's really four right there. So it's some pretty sad stuff to really hear about in the past few days, depending whether you liked all these guys or not and what they did in their professions. Like obviously Malcolm Jamal Warner would act in sitcom movies and Ozzy Osbourne music and Hulk Hogan wrestling and whatnot. So yeah, it's very sad to what happened to all three of these, like three, four of these guys right here. So yeah, it's been a yeah, it's really been a crazy few days hearing just a lot of these stories and whatnot. So it's definitely wild stuff. So like I said before, I just want to take a few minutes to come on here and talk about this because I feel like it's gonna be one of these situations. It's gonna be damned if you do, damned if you don't when talking about Hogan and whatnot. So that's why I said at the beginning of this video, it's like I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of heat on from this, but hey, it is what it is. But like I said, if you really see what's going on online right now, it's some wild shit. I'll say that. But yeah, I just want to come say like rest in peace, Hulk Hogan, man. It's very very shocking to hear. It is like I said, this is like looking at all that's happened. At the end of the day, this is probably one of the biggest news stories in wrestling out of the entire year. Okay, it's the most biggest, shocking, and very sad day in the world of professional wrestling. So, especially if you really sit and think about it. So it's crazy. Like it really is crazy. So other than that, I'm out of here. I'm gonna see you guys later. And peace out.